The scriptures during the Lenten period are just enormously rich, and they really take us on a journey during these 40 days and 40 nights. And the more that we can reflect on them, the more powerful they become. In the first two readings with the responsorial psalm also, the word covenant or a reference to the covenant is given to us. And this covenant, the covenant after the flood with Noah, said that God would never allow this kind of destruction again, and God renewed his covenant. This is the second covenant, and covenant for God was very precise what it meant. Covenant with God meant, I will never abandon you, ever. I will never abandon you. So that if people turned away from God, he wouldn't abandon us. If they didn't listen, he wouldn't abandon us. If he broke the laws, he wouldn't abandon us. If they stopped believing, he wouldn't abandon us. If they hated God, God made a covenant. I will never abandon you, ever. Now, this is so basic to faith, the faith of the Jews and the Christians. If we don't get this and don't believe this, well, we're abandoned, not by God, but by ourselves. And quite frankly, I can't think of believing in any God unless this God would say such a thing, and this God does. I will never abandon you. So, in the gospel that we have today, Mark, and Mark is the first of the Gospels. It's the shortest of the Gospels. It's the most direct of the Gospels. And very often is very similar to Matthew and Luke. These are the three, the synoptic Gospels. However, today in Mark's Gospel, unlike Matthew and Luke, we don't hear about the three temptations. It's very straightforward, very simple. And in fact, there's no birth story in Mark. So, unlike Matthew and Luke, the first line, the very first line, verse of the Gospel of Mark says, this is the story of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and his way. Okay, we know where we're going. Immediately after that, it talks about John the Baptist, who came to foretell the coming of the Lord. And then immediately after that is the story of the baptism of Jesus in the Jordan. So that's the first 14 verses, and then by the 15th verse, Jesus is driven out to the desert by the Spirit. God's Spirit takes him out there. He doesn't just decide to wander out there. It isn't a fluke. It isn't, I'm tired of this, so let me go out in the desert. The Spirit of God drove him out there, and he remained for 40 days and 40 nights. He was tempted by the devil, and the angels ministered to him. There, wrapped it up, it's over. Then it says, after that, John had been arrested, and Jesus began to proclaim the good news. Repent. Believe in the gospel. I propose to you, as I suggested to the people who came to my services on Ash Wednesday, that maybe we look at Lent a little askew. We're always talking about my Lent. Did I have a good Lent? Was my Lent not so good this year? How was Lent for you? Well, it's all focused on what I do, what I did, what I gave up, or what I added to my life. And that's all good. I'm not putting it down. But what if we turned it around and said, God, this is your Lent. What would you like to do for us this Lent? What would you like to do to us this Lent? What would you like to change in us? How would you like to call us or move us or help us to grow? What would you, God, make new in us this Lent? So what if the focus became, God, I believe you're going to pour your Spirit into me, all over us, this whole congregation. We're going to be covered by God's Spirit as he draws us into the Lenten experience. And with his word and with the prayer and all the special things we do during Lent, all the changes that we make, he's going to shake us up, turn us upside down, give us some gifts. What if that's what we were getting in this Lent? Now, for the last year and a half, because of our DRE, I've been doing reading every morning. I get up at 5:30, 5:45, and I read for about an hour. And I was just given a book by this gentleman back here, Einstein and the Rabbi. I cry every page, every page. I know I'm a wimp, but every single page is just too much. It's a search for the soul. It's quite a book, quite a book. Well, I ran across a Hebrew word because it's written by a woman rabbi, the first woman rabbi, actually. And I learned this word. Now, I don't speak Hebrew, and I actually went onto the internet to try and find the pronunciation, but everything wanted me to download something, and I wasn't in the mood for downloading anything, a program. So it's H-U-S-A. I think it's Husa. Maybe it's Husa. I don't know, but I'm going to presume it's Husa. Could you repeat after me? Husa. Husa. Come on, give me a little Husa. Okay, Husa. Big word. Now, the Jews, like a lot of tribes and peoples all over the earth, not so much us, but they like names that have meanings, that describe, not just like in an adjective, pretty, blue, green, whatever, but actually describes almost like an activity. And Husa is one of those words. Husa is this. It's not just mercy or merciful love or attentive love. It is that. But it goes deeper. Here's a description of Husa. Okay, I'm an artist. I feel that I've been given some gifts of being an artist. And as I start to develop them, I create my first real piece of art. Create this thing. And it's pretty and ugly at the same time. It's beautiful, but it's very imperfect. Flaws, and it doesn't have a lot of knowledge of art, but there's some passion in it. That's my first piece. Years go on, and I've developed as an artist. I've learned a whole bunch of things. I've checked out all the different styles of art, and I'm creating pieces of art that are selling for a lot of money. So somebody says to me one day, well, you've done a lot of art, and they're in galleries and all over the place. What's your favorite piece? And I said, oh, I know what that is. My first piece. This is my first piece. Well, why? And I show it to them, and they say, really? That thing is your first? That's your love? I say, absolutely. Well, why? It's not so beautiful. Oh, it is to me. This is my first passion in the field of art. Oh, I know there's flaws. I know there's things that don't work. But this is the one I love. That's Husa. That's Husa. That's how God looks at us, with Husa. He says, oh, these are my people. Oh, they're very imperfect. They're sinners. I made a covenant with them. I promised I'd never break it. They break it all the time. They tell me they're going to give up this for Lent, and then they cheat. They say they're going to do this, and then they forget. They say they're going to be better with one another, and then they stop being better with one another. They get into ruts where they won't forgive, even though I forgive them all the time. But they're special. Husa, I love them. But God, they've turned against you. They're weak. They're sinners. It's Husa. I love them. Now, once again, I propose to you, and the Jews get it right. Husa. We've got a God that looks at us with Husa. We're very imperfect. We try and we fall. And I'm not pardoning it. And by no means am I suggesting if we accept Husa, then we say, see, I don't have to try anymore because we got Husa. No, because Husa is something that needs to engage us, cover us, fill us, call us, inspire us, touch us, lead us, open us. And when we really fall apart and are broken, that this Husa speaks to us in a way at the center of our soul that says, don't you worry, I'll bring you back to life. Well, this period of Lent is a period of Husa. Every day should be, but this is Husa time. Husa time. We are supposed to get into Husa. And the reason is not just to get Husa, but we're supposed to be turning into a people of Husa. We're supposed to become like God, become like Christ. Christ didn't just die on the cross to say, I wipe out sin. He showed us how to become real, human, living, faith-filled people. He said, you want to have faith and life in you? People spit in your face, forgive them. People hate you, love them. People persecute you, pray for them. That's Husa. That's Husa. The cross is Husa. We're invited into Husa because I really am convinced of this. This, more than anything I can say, God is trying to give us His divine life to spark in us who we can become, what we can become. Now, I know there are naysayers. I have in my own family who say, oh, you're so idealistic. This is ridiculous. Nobody can love like that. I say, I know that. But should we reach for the lowest? Should we say, this is all we can do? Is that how we want life to treat us? Oh, well, they're not all that. But Husa gets into us and lifts us up and tells us, reach for the stars. Go with it with everything in your soul. You may not forgive everyone, but try. You may not pray for those who hurt you, but try. Because if you can experience Husa, if you can let Husa into you, if you can become each day a little bit more Husa yourself, then more than ever will you appreciate the Husa of God. And that Husa of God will transform your life. We go into the desert, we talk like this. We go into the desert of Glasell Park for 40 days and 40 nights. We stop doing some things. We don't eat chocolate. Well, I will. We don't drink beer. We don't smoke. We stop watching so much TV. The kids put down those air station games or whatever it is. And we stop talking on the phone just a little bit. Maybe actually write a letter. Maybe actually go visit somebody. Maybe actually talk serious about forgiving someone we haven't talked to for a long time with any quality. We turn it upside down and inside out as we go into the desert of Husa because we want this life that God gives to us so generously. And if we get it, if we taste it, if we accept it, then maybe we actually will experience new life during this Lent.